Hello and welcome. In this video, I will do a short demonstration on how to configure Dynamics 365 to achieve the following objectives. We want to estimate fuel surcharge amounts that differ based on the ship to address. For any deliveries that are going to California state, we want to have a higher fuel surcharge calculated. For any other states, it should be lower. And we want to see these results when we are rating and routing our load. So now let's go back into the system. In the first step, we will need to talk about the fuel surcharge setups. This topic was well covered in a variety of different videos on the internet, so I would encourage you to check them out, and I would mention a couple of those links in the video below. First thing, we will need to define our regions. So we'll navigate to Transportation module and go to Fuel Index Regions. In here, I have created two regions, one for California and another one for USA. Please note those are not states in the global address book, neither those are the countries there. Those are just the regions that you are free to create. In the next step, I will define different fuel prices for these two regions. So I'll navigate to fuel indexes right here, and I have defined a $3 price per gallon for California region and $2 per gallon for my USA region. And finally, I will then create a carrier fuel index. This setup right here will define a rate or a percentage for our fuel surcharge. In here, just to make it simple for our demonstration purposes, I have decided to create a $1 per mile fuel surcharge if the price of fuel is between $1.50 and $2.50. And remember, that's the price that we have in our USA region. And then I have a $2 per mile fuel surcharge for the prices of fuel between $2.50 and $3.50. And that's the price of fuel that we have in our California region. If the region is California, then the fuel price is higher and the fuel surcharge amount is higher as well. Now, I will assign that NW fuel index to my carrier that I will use for testing. I'll navigate to my shipping carriers. And in here, you see that I have this NW fuel carrier fuel index assigned. All right, so that's part one. In part two, we'll talk about the criteria that will define when that fuel surcharge should be applied. So in the first step, we'll need to navigate to rating and make sure that we have created accessorial master for our fuel surcharge. Right here, I have created one called fuel surcharge. So think of it as the code that will show up on our estimates that we can then match later to the carrier invoice lines. In the next step, we'll make that accessorial master available to our carrier. We will go to carrier accessorial charges. And in here, I will use that accessorial master I just looked at, and I will associate it with my carrier Northwind. So this will allow that carrier to then use that accessorial master ID when we estimate loads for that carrier. And finally, we will then define the criteria when that fuel surcharge should be applicable. We will do that under accessorial assignments. Here I have created two accessorial assignments. One is NW Fuel California and another one is NW Fuel USA. You see that they're set up very similarly, but under criteria for my California, I have defined my zip code from and zip code to ranges, and those are the California state ranges. So I'm basically telling the system, apply this accessorial charge only if delivery address falls within the range of the zip codes. And then under accessorial fee type, I have selected fuel surcharge. Accessorial unit is set to mileage. And then the most important part here is, all right, I have two prices of fuel that drive two different fuel surcharge amounts, $1 per mile or $2 per mile. Which one of those fuel prices we will use? Well, it all depends on the region. So for that accessorial assignment, for the California one, I'm telling the system to use my California region fuel prices. And then my second accessorial assignment looks very similar, but we don't have any ranges of the zip codes. We only have a country region definition. So for any deliveries within the USA country, we are expected to pay this fuel surcharge based on the USA region fuel prices. All right, with that set up in place, we are finally ready to test it on the load rating step. So let's open our load right here and let's click on Rate Route Workbench. In here we have delivery zip code that is 94115. That's the one that falls within the California range. So we will click on the rate shop button right here. And we can see that the rate was calculated as $310. If you would like to check the details, we'll click on the View Details button right here. So the system is telling us that the base rate, basically for the freight itself, is $300. That's a flat fee. And then it calculates $2 per mile, and the number of miles is 5. Hence, it's $10 fuel surcharge that was estimated. Why is it 5 miles? Well, we have a mileage engine that controls the number of miles between several zip codes. And in this case, you can see that the 5 miles is between those two zip codes. What about if we change the zip code to another one in California? So let's do that. We will click on 90001, select that zip code, and we will do the rate shopping again. Now we see that the number of miles has changed to 100, but the rate of $2 per mile still remains in place because the delivery address falls within the California state. We can check it by going to View Details, and we can see that the fuel surcharge was calculated as $200, which is $2 per mile multiplied by 100 miles. And finally, we will change our zip code to a non-California zip code. Let's say 70001, and click on the rate shop. To keep it simple, I have also defined 100 miles between these zip codes as well, but the rate per mile for that fuel surcharge now should be different. We will click on View Details, and we can see that the number of miles is still 100, but the rate per mile has changed from $2 to $1 per mile. So that is how you can configure different fuel surcharges based on the destination states or destination address, destination zip codes. One last thing I wanted to show you here is under accessorial assignments is the accessorial assignment level. You may have noticed that both of my charges here have a level of shipment, USA and then California. That is why only one fuel surcharge was applied. But if I change the assignment level on my California to, let's say, load, and keep my US charge at the shipment level and save that change and go to rate shopping, you see that the rate now is $600. That means both charges have been applied. The California one, because I have my delivery to address in California, and also the US one, because that one was a broader US address, right? And we can check it by View Details. We see a $200 fuel surcharge, that's a California one, and the $100 one for the US. So if you see that scenario, make sure that both of those charges are assigned to either load or shipment level, because if I change my US to the load and also keep my California as the load, because they are now on the same level, only one should be applied. Let's test it. Click on Rate Shop. And we see that only one California rate has been applied right here. And the last thing that you may be interested here as well, we can also define different criteria. For example, the weight. We can say that the minimum weight for these charges to be applied will be 120 pounds, right? So we can set a minimum weight for both of these charges to 120 pounds, save that change, and go back to our rating workbench, click on Rate Shop. And you can see here that none of the fuel surcharges have been applied. But if I increase the weight of my shipment to, let's say, 150 pounds right here and click on the rate shop, then we'll see that fuel surcharge has been applied again. All right, that is it for the fuel surcharges for different regions. I hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time.